Ever since Hurricane Milton, the tropics have been quiet, but we think that is going to change over the next few days as we have two different areas of development, one in the Atlantic Ocean and one in the Caribbean Sea, and these could end up becoming our next tropical storms that could even impact land. So in today's forecast, we're going to break down exactly what you need to know about the tropics, what's happening now, and what is to come over the next 7 to 10 days. So let's begin with what's happening across the Atlantic Ocean right now, and right now the National Hurricane Center has two different areas of development, one of which is back over in the central Atlantic Ocean, which, by the way, that is very rare for this time of the year for having a system this far to the east in the Atlantic Ocean. We'll talk more about that here in just a moment. And then here's your other area of development back over in the southern Caribbean Sea, and it's mainly with the disorganized area of convection that is centered just to the east of Central America. Both areas are going to have to be watched over the next few days as they could end up becoming our next named storms. Outside of this, in the United States, things are relatively quiet. We had a huge cold blast go across almost the entire eastern tier of the United States. Many of you waking up this morning are probably wearing a jacket, unless you're back down in Texas or even down over in Phoenix, Arizona, which Phoenix, Arizona has had an unbelievable record-breaking streak of high temperatures, which we'll probably talk a little bit more about that here later in the forecast. Let's talk more about the tropics. This is the latest outlook from the National Hurricane Center, and you'll notice that there are no named storms right now in the Atlantic Ocean. However, we do have two areas of development, one of which is back over in the southwestern Caribbean Sea, disorganized area of convection. This will be moving slowly to the north and more than likely will move west towards the Yucatan Peninsula and could end up becoming a brief tropical depression or storm. This one not really expected to impact the United States at all. However, this might become a brief tropical depression or storm and bring lots of rain to areas like the Yucatan Peninsula. Currently has a 20% chance of development. Now, this is the more concerning area. That's in the orange. Obviously, you can tell it's moving in the direction of something like Florida, for example, and we're going to talk more about where I think this will go in the intensity here in just a moment. But I do want to mention that this does have a 50% chance of development over the next 7 days and could end up becoming our next named storm, which would be Nadine. And this is going to continue to move to the west towards the Lesser Antilles in about 2 to 3 days. And then the Greater Antilles will start to feel at least some impacts as we go into the weekend. Now, this might not be a named storm, but it is actually called Invest 94L. And what that basically means is that the National Hurricane Center is investigating this area for potential development in the central Atlantic Ocean. Right now, we've had a lot of convection around and just west of the center of this low pressure system. It does continue to have a nice little spin to it, so it is still spinning. The problem still remains is that there's a lot of dry air here in the central Atlantic Ocean, and unless that can be overcome, this is going to struggle to develop, but it does look like it's starting to mature a little bit more, starting to organize a little bit more, which is hence why we do think that this could make a run at becoming a tropical storm or maybe even a hurricane as we go later into the week and even into the weekend. Now, this is the spaghetti models for Invest 94L, and essentially what that means is that we're looking at a bunch of different computer models, and they're basically showing where the track of the system will go over the next few days. And for the time being, most of the models still in consensus that this little low pressure center will move towards the upper Lesser Antilles as we go later into the week. By about Friday or so, it should be interacting there with the northern part of the Lesser Antilles. And then by the weekend, Puerto Rico, the Dominican Republic, Haiti, and Cuba would start to feel some impacts. Now, regardless of development, we do think that this will be a rainmaker for those in the Greater Antilles, so be prepared for several inches of rainfall. If it does develop, that'll only amplify that potential threat for those areas. Now, this is only through the next 5 days. If we look at something that shows us beyond 5 days, you'll notice that these ensemble members from the GEFS ensembles kind of show a couple of different scenarios if this actually develops. And notice there are only 3 ensemble members out of a couple of dozen that even show this being anything beyond the Dominican Republic and Haiti. So that's already kind of giving you an idea that if this does develop, it might not be much of anything anyways. But if it does end up developing, there's a possibility that it moves more to the north towards Bermuda as we go into next week, or it could move into the Caribbean Sea. There are a couple ensemble members showing that, and if this goes into the Caribbean, this could end up being a problem for something like Florida. However, I still am not very confident that we are going to see anything out of that system or even the one back over in the Yucatan Peninsula. However, there are some models that do show that this could become something more concerning, one of which is the HWFI model, which has actually been very bullish on this particular system of this becoming something more significant. Right now has it more on a track for a tropical storm sometime later this week and eventually intensifies towards a major hurricane status. It's an outlier. I don't really agree with it. The SHIP model, which is actually one that has been very accurate this season, still has this intensifying into a tropical storm sometime in the next 48 hours and then eventually brings it to a category 1 or 2 hurricane as it approaches the Greater Antilles. Now, the rest rest of the models are in a variety of different places, either a tropical depression or nothing at all, or even upwards of a tropical storm or low-end hurricane. So now another model that does show this becoming something more concerning is the Icon model. This is not a model that I typically use for forecasting, but I did want to show you guys because I do think it does at least give you a representation of what could happen if this system does develop. So this is as we go into Thursday into Friday. This is your low pressure center. This particular model does not show any development even through Friday. As we go into Saturday into Sunday, it becomes a small little tropical storm near Puerto Rico and also near the Dominican Republic and Haiti. And then as we go into Monday into Tuesday, notice how it does intensify just a little bit down to around 989 millibars, still a tropical storm. And then by the time we go into Monday, Tuesday into Wednesday, it kind of flirts there around the areas like the Bahamas and also just north of Cuba. What this essentially means is that if this does develop, it will more than likely be a big rainmaker. The big thing that we would have to watch for the United States if this does end up developing would be if this is able to go more to the south and west and go into the Caribbean Sea, because if that happens, a high pressure system could drop down to the south and perhaps pull it up into Florida. I'm not saying that's going to happen, but theoretically this is still a possibility. I think it's a very low chance at this point. And even then, this is the Icon model. It is not a model that I usually prefer for forecasting tropical systems, but I just want to throw it out there because it is still a possible scenario. This is the GFS model, which does not show any development anymore. It did for a few days. Now it just shows some showers and thunderstorms moving across the greater Antilles over the next few days. I honestly don't think we're going to just be dealing with showers and thunderstorms. I still have a feeling that we're at least going to get maybe a little tropical depression or a low-end tropical storm as this approaches the greater Antilles with how favorable the environment is. But other than that, I just don't think this is going to become a major problem, at least for the United States. However, there is still a chance. There are still models that have been reliable this season that bring this closer to a Category 1 hurricane. So we still have to monitor those trends closely, and we'll end up seeing what happens over the next few days. And obviously, if you are new to the channel, make sure to subscribe down below. We'll continue to keep you posted with the latest on this tropical development. Now, here are the watches and warnings across the country this morning. Notice we have freeze warnings in effect for much of the Midwest, back through the Central Plains, even into the Ohio Valley, and several areas back over in the higher elevations of like Kentucky, for example, saw a few inches of snow last night. So it's been pretty interesting here over the last 48 hours. We've actually had record-breaking low temperatures set across several areas this morning, and that is all to blame because of this large cold air mass. This would be in the winter time in Arctic blast, but it's not really that time of the year yet. But it is very cold, especially across areas along the East Coast, and that'll continue through Friday and Saturday before eventually the temperatures rebound as we go into next week. But overall, pretty nice weather. Obviously, for this time of the year, many of you looking for the jackets. If you want a hoodie, by the way, you can go to shopmaxvelocity.net. #ad. We do have hoodies on our website. We're going to add more, by the way, this weekend. I know a lot of you guys are asking about those. Now, in terms of the future radar for the next few days, overall, we're not looking at much other than just some showers and thunderstorms in the central and southern plains. Maybe a low-end severe weather day on Sunday or Monday. We'll keep a close eye on those if needed. We'll be live, but again, I don't see much concern there as of right now. And then as we go later into next week, things look pretty quiet. So overall, not really going to be looking at many videos, I don't think, over the next few days unless something does change. But as always, if you are new to the channel, make sure to subscribe. We might have our next winter, or first winter storm, I should say, at some point here in the next few weeks. So we'll be keeping a close eye out on that. And guys, this is your last chance. We only have a couple more hats left that are going to be signed by me for 500,000 subscribers. If you want to get one, it is the top link in the description below or at shopmaxvelocity.net. Also, we still have our other merch like our t-shirt, our unsigned hat, our beanie, our mug, and as well as our sticker for 500,000 subscribers. These are all available until about Halloween or so. So around October 31st, that is going to be probably about your last time to get these. So if you want any of these other merch items, again, it is shopmaxvelocity.net.